I'm Roniel,
I'm DaRon.
and Duran, I have a question. Are you going to see any movies this weekend or anything that's catching your radar? Because there's a lot of good stuff coming out, man.
Actually, this isn't a movie. Space Force Season 2 came out.
Yes. I didn't even watch season one, but I heard it was funny as shit, and I seen season two, and I was like, oh, I have to binge watch this. So yes, and it reminded me of that one show that we were talking about. Probably not the same, but it reminded me of that one show that was on Netflix that was going crazy, but also Spaceballs.
Yeah. That's probably pretty fair. That's probably pretty fair. It's I think anyone who's been in the military or worked with the military for a long time would really appreciate it. I think people who have been working with the government a long time really appreciate it. I mean, it's so funny. So I'm gonna start watching it actually tonight. So
I have a long ways to go. I was actually watching Strain, the vampire show. I had watched it a while back, but it was when it was on TV, but I stopped watching it for some reason and couldn't catch up. Then I binge watched and watched all of the series. I think it was 4 seasons or maybe five or something, or no, maybe four. And I was done with it. So now this weekend I'm looking to see Uncharted.
yes.
And I think might see this other movie. I forgot the name of it. It's another movie. I think I want to see Blacklight. It's not that popular, but it's the Nimai. If you know, I'm talking about. I forgot his last name, but he played in Taken.
Oh, okay.
One guy, yeah, I'm about to say that it has a set of skills.
Yeah.
It wasn't that popular, but I want to see it anyway. So I'm gonna check those out and see how great they is. Maybe we'll do a reaction on it, and maybe we'll do a reaction on the Space Force. I was about to say Spaceballs, Space Force pause. But yeah. So if you haven't checked those movies that are coming out, check the series Space Force, and also get you some water, Aquafina. You know, keep some Wawa in your life so you won't end up like me or DaRon and can't even talk. You know, and I'm still young. He's getting older, so he's old. So
I'm old.
topic of the day: subject matter expert. And how do you become a subject matter expert in 2022? And how would you consider yourself, and when do you subject matter expert besides a hacker? Is
God.
it just from getting a title, a self title, or something that you are self entitled yourself, or did somebody give it to you from work? And what does that mean to you?
I actually had someone ask how you become a subject matter expert recently. And I sat there and first he asked what insecurity I'm a subject matter expert on specifically. And I said, well, actually, the whole thing. And I think that confused him because normally there are two big routes you'll see. A lot of people will be a subject matter expert in something very, very narrow, like subject matter expert in firewalls, subject matter expert in PIX firewalls, subject matter expert in application security. That's actually much broader than firewalls. And then maybe you'll balloon out from there a little bit, but usually your subject matter experts are, you're within a domain, right? And it's typically a very small portion of that actual domain. And what usually winds up happening is it's something that you've been doing for many years. It's something that you really know well, in extreme depth and detail. If, for example, you're a PIX subject matter expert, you could sit there and rattle off obscure commands, not because you went out and said, I'm going to go learn obscure commands, but because you just know the system so well. You can describe exactly how the firmware operates. You can describe how the hardware operates. You can describe how the actual system operates in great detail and all of this other stuff. So when you are able to do that, you'll find eventually people will start referring to you as a subject matter expert. And So I always say, like, I get asked, well, what's your title? So my actual technical title is subject matter expert, as far as my company is concerned. To a lot of organizations, government organizations, but also various certification bodies and major international information security bodies, I am a distinguished subject matter expert. Now, the reason why they call me distinguished is because, well, I have written a lot of the stuff, actually most of the stuff people are using. So if you do incident response, you're probably using the stuff I wrote, whether or not you know it. If you're doing digital forensics, probably using the stuff I wrote, whether or not you know it. If you are doing security assessments, again, that's me. Password management, also me. General security, that was also me. I probably wrote the stuff that you're doing. If you're doing application security, you're probably also doing the stuff that I wrote and using it heavily without knowing it.
Probably. Come on, man. Give yourself some credit. They are using that shit,
That,
especially in a corporate environment.
yeah.
Maybe not the bug bounty people, but
yes. Well, and that's actually pretty accurate. But even within the bug bounty community, most of the processes that they're following inherently are things, because they're learning it from other people online and everything else, are things that I wrote and described. In many cases, I was the first one to write and describe it in the way that it was. And it's because I did write DISA-STIGs. I did write a lot of NIST special publications. I've written a lot of things for a lot of organizations. And then you have the ISOs, which leached off of that, and everyone's using that. And of course, you know, the OWASP stuff was a bad imitation of that. I helped contribute to a lot of the MITRE stuff and do a lot of review of a lot of their components. And I mean, there's a lot of different pots I've had my hands in, and that's why they say distinguished, because technically, I guess I am. So I have a lot of international awards, and I've written a lot of things, and most of it doesn't have my name on it. But that's the world of being a contractor. That's also the world of, I actually ask people to remove my name. I don't want my name on stuff. I don't like attention.
Yeah, privacy is better.
It is better. The whole thing with regard to subject matter experts is you have become it's not even the go-to person, because you're beyond the go-to person. The go-to person is someone, oh, well, I need to know this obscure command or this or that. And so, they'll happen to know it. It's someone who's actually recognized as they know and understand something beyond their peers and contribute to further knowledge of that domain. And they're pushing it forward, and people look to them as an authority on the matter. That's one of the keys. They look to you as an authority, as an actual authority who knows what you're talking about and is generating actual knowledge, not generating YouTube videos. What we're doing here doesn't make you a subject matter expert. What we're doing here doesn't make you a security anything. I mean, this is our attempts at giving back to the community, and just yet another way that we can disperse our knowledge, which is important. But there's no real pathway to becoming a subject matter expert, not purposefully. I've never seen anyone purposefully.
You sure the new name for subject matter expert is not unicorn?
It does seem to be, doesn't it? I think unicorn implies a couple other things, though.
I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
They're calling you horny.
Ooh, pause. I might be a horny little man, but no. I don't need anything sticking out of my head. But it definitely seems like in today, if somebody they don't really seem to call them subject matter expert. They may call them an expert, but they usually call them something else in particular. But with that being said, so you being an expert in everything and security wise, which kind of confuse people because they probably don't believe that it's possible to be. Would you recommend people who are starting off or becoming that subject matter or want to become a subject matter expert, that they start off with a particular subject and build upon that and master that subject, learn that particular, subject, and then move on to probably get to a point where they are able to know all or be all, which I'm sure that's not impossible, but not everybody can't be that. It's
Right.
an outlier thing. So
and so you're exactly right. It's very important to recognize that there are limitations on everyone, right? What we focus on and specialize on in life is going to vary based on our passions, and it will change it'll ebb and flow as you go. I don't know that there is anything you can do particularly to set yourself up to be a subject matter expert, except have a hunger and thirst for a specific domain. And they do use the term, but you won't hear it used frequently because there are very few subject matter experts in the world. Most people are very good. That's not true. Many people are very good at something. Many people can really excel at something, but that's not the same. Subject matter experts, those are the people that... So I'll give you a good example. We had that gentleman on, what was that? That wasn't Slack. Anyway, so we're sitting there talking with this guy in this group chat, and we were discussing a race condition based on using Itanium processors, because we're talking about C#, and the way that they were doing their locking, they were doing double check locking. Well, double check locking in C# on an Itanium processor actually behaves differently than if it were on another architecture. And it was a very quick interaction, and he is sitting there confounded, confused, and in disbelief, and I'm pulling up Microsoft's actual specifications and sending him a link to that where they very clearly state, in these conditions, then the synchronization and the checks can be swapped around, they can be moved, they can be removed, and all of this other stuff, and therefore you lose that data integrity, and as such, you can have a race condition tied specifically to the Itanium processors. And that's the kind of thing that I would expect a SME to know, a subject matter expert to know. I would expect a subject matter expert to have that in-depth knowledge of the inner workings of the system. And it's got to be, for me, usually it's got to be a whole bunch of stuff. And it's something that happens over time. You don't plan for it. It just happens. And what that means is you, as someone who, if your goal is to become one, because there are generally there are three tracks in our industry, right?
Yep.
Track one, you become management eventually, right? So you stop playing the game and you become management. Track two, you stop playing the game and you become irrelevant, right? And that's actually most people. You stagnate. So most people actually can't make it into the management because they don't have the people skills, especially in our industry, in IT, in security, what have you. They don't have the people skills, so they can't make management, and poof, they just fade away into obscurity. Track three is your subject matter expert. And to do that, you have to work with a lot of systems constantly. You have to be constantly striving and getting new knowledge and generating new knowledge. And it means that you can't... I've never seen a subject matter expert in a given domain who, in the modern era, doesn't have a degree in that domain.
Okay.
That's not to say that you wouldn't have to, but it would be very difficult to become a subject matter expert without that foundational knowledge, as we've discussed before.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to become a subject matter expert in security, I would recommend, as we've said before, you get an electrical engineering or a computer science degree. You're not going to become a subject matter expert off of a cybersecurity degree. It's not going to happen. I promise you that. Just not going to happen. It's way too high level a degree. You might go through and become very good at something. I'm not saying you won't be very good at something, but you certainly won't be a subject matter expert. And that goes to what I was just describing. As a computer scientist, I can sit there and tell you all about RISC's architectures. I can tell you about CISC's architecture. I'm sure you remember all that. I can tell you about ARM. I can tell you about the Intel. I can tell you about AMD's architectures. But I can also tell you about the way the kernel works. And I can tell you about, and when I say the kernel, I mean the kernel and a bunch of different kernels. And I can tell you how all of this stuff works and is absolutely vital to understanding our field and becoming a subject matter expert. I've never seen a subject matter expert in penetration testing.
Some people are experts at a particular subject, as we said. And I remember you talking to when we were back at Highland about to a few people about pigeonholing yourself into a particular subject and being stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk about more about how that can affect their career if you pigeonhole yourself into one subject to become that subject matter expert?
I think where people get really confused is by all of this, and they think that you should walk around calling yourself an expert. And they think that the other component is not only should I call myself an expert, but I need to call myself an expert in something. And I'm going to call myself, I don't understand the defense side. It's too complicated for me. So I'm going to set myself up to be a mobile application penetration testing SME that doesn't exist, that does not exist. What you're going to do is you're going to stifle your career because you're going to pigeonhole yourself. What if you go through and you say, okay, well, I'm going to become really good at mobile application testing. Well, that's great. But what about when the game changes? Yeah. You didn't learn the greater penetration testing. You didn't learn how to defend. And I would argue, I don't know how you can attack well if you can't defend, because what would you do if someone put up defenses? You don't know how to defend. Right, exactly. You don't know how to get around it. You have to ensure that to be a subject matter expert, yes, your knowledge is ridiculously deep, but it needs to be in a domain where it makes sense. Being a Java software development subject matter expert, that's a thing, but it's not a very strong position. Being C# subject matter expert, it's a thing, but it's not a very strong position. Because again, well, what happens when what they really need isn't Java or C#, it's D, or just for fun, brain fuck, which is another.
Oh God, yeah, I remember that.
Or Pascal, Python, Perl,
F#.
Yeah, F#, or anything really, right? So I would rather not be pigeonholed because maybe Java's dying. Maybe C# is dying. When you decide what it is you're going to do, it's better to make sure that you're a subject matter expert in something that actually matters long term. So let's say you decided to become a PIX SME, right? Mm-hmm. What happens when Cisco gets rid of PIX firewalls? Mm-hmm. You're out of a job. The real subject matter experts on the development side tend to be your software architecture subject matter experts. So those people can tell you how to architect your software regardless of the language, because they've transcended a given language, because they understand the field so well that they understand that at the end of the day, while yes, I may slightly reorganize things and adjust things based on things like the environment, the language I'm going to be using, the processors and all of that good stuff, there are these sets of architectural, methodologies that I should be following. And this is how in general it should look based on what it is you're after. And now I can tailor it. Those are the people who are useful subject matter experts. your Java subject matter experts, well, good luck to you when they move to 1.9. Actually, they're past that. When they move to the next version of Java and they make huge changes, or they move to C# 14, whatever it happens to be. Now you have to relearn it all over again because you hyper specialized. You can be a subject matter expert and understand the way all of that stuff works without getting pigeonholed into a specific language and knowing obscuria of obscuria for no good reason and to no end. And that's the thing that people really need to avoid. That's what you have to, and to become a subject matter expert takes a lot. It is not something most people can do. You're talking about having a lot of experience, having high level degrees, usually coupled with the experience, although sometimes you don't have to have high level degrees. You could just have a lot of experience. And you have to have knowledge that is well beyond most everyone else in the field. That's how this works. That's just, unfortunately, for most people, it's not something that you will become. Most people will die trying to get there and they'll just give up. I mean, die from a career perspective.
So with that being said, I have two questions, and it may be just one. So would it be easier to become a hacker versus becoming a SME? And would I in 2022 would I want to go for the hacker route, which I don't like saying hacker, but as you've seen, there is the term of how to become a hacker or whether you should call yourself a hacker. So my thing is it easier for somebody to become a hacker rather than an SME? And then the second question is, would I want to become a hacker versus becoming a subject matter expert?
I'll tell you what, the titles are for fools for the most part.
Just like tools?
Exactly. You either are something or you aren't. You're either doing that thing or you aren't, right? Subject matter expert is about the massive amount of knowledge that you have, practical knowledge, theoretical knowledge, and all of it combined into you, and experience that you have, all of it in you. Having a PhD doesn't make you a subject matter expert. Being a postdoc doesn't make you a subject matter expert. It's not how that works. Otherwise, there'd be tons of subject matter experts all over the place. You have to have much, much more. And it's much easier by the thing that everyone means when they say hacker. It's much easier to be a hacker than subject matter expert because you don't have to know much to get lucky.
Are you saying the hacking is luck?
I'm saying what a lot of people think of when they think a hacker is someone who's very lucky. In many cases, you look at many of your bounty hunters, a lot of them are lucky. They hit enough systems that they find one. And they hit it in very specific ways. That's luck. That's nothing, right?
But Dan, DaRon, they are subject matter experts in the vulnerability.
Yeah, right. Subject matter expert on that one vulnerability in that one very specific way.
They literally say, when they tell you if you want to be a bug bounty, focus on one vuln and find that vuln for every bug bounty, every bounty. And that's how a lot of people make their money.
And if you just provide basic protections that screw up their one script, it won't work and they'll just move on, assuming you don't have that vulnerability. That's not a subject matter expert. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's how you know that is a script kiddie. That's how you know that they're not a subject matter expert. And you can say, well, but they're a subject matter expert on that vulnerability. No, they aren't. Because the subject matter expert on that vulnerability could find it in any case. That's how that works.
Yep.
I mean, I can sit there and take protocols I've never seen before, dissect the protocol, and find vulnerabilities in it like mad. It's what I do for the government on a very constant basis. That's how that works. And that's how you know you're not a script kiddie. You know, you've transcended beyond just using basic tools that everyone else is using. You're having to make your own tools in certain cases because there is nothing to work with this protocol or that protocol or do this or that. If all you're doing is running a bunch of tools and out pops the data, you're not a subject matter expert. Oh, I'm a subject matter expert on using static code analysis tools. No, you're a script kiddie.
And it's a lot more pressure on a subject matter expert than it is on an attacker. Like you said, they can get lucky. I feel that it's a lot more pressure for somebody who knows it all, especially when, and in most cases, and I've seen it with you, that, you know, like you said, one solution, it's not a one size fit all.
Right.
One solution won't work, and you have to be able to, off the top, come up with something. You know, you have to, they can call your bluff.
Yes.
In a room, if you are that person right away.
Yes.
So, you know, you literally, it's a lot of pressure there, especially when you're called the expert.
Right.
And you should know the system in and out. So it's a lot easier. And I think more people should strive to, whether you want to be a subject matter expert or not, to learn the systems in and out, build that foundation. And as DaRon said, it comes with time, with experience. Over time, you will know these things. Maybe you'll be good at it, maybe you won't.
Right.
But if you want to become something of that, you know, stature, then, you know, that's something that you need to do. Build your foundation, build your way up,
yes.
And get familiar with all of these different systems. And don't listen to all of these content creators. I mean, all of it's the same shit. And a lot of them don't know what they're talking about. They're not experts.
That is true.
Like I said, nobody's really an expert, but here, again, you're going to get a title that somebody will tell you you are the expert in your field.
Right.
And especially if you're writing the shit that people are following. So yes, you would be the expert and nobody knows it better, probably better than you. So there's cases in that. So if you're going to become that or striving to be that, then as DaRon said, comes with time and experience, and build that foundation. You know, you have to know that shit in and out, because it's going to be times that you're not going to be able to use a tool.
Yeah.
You're going to make your own shit.
Yeah, it's all about diversity of knowledge and diversity of experience, and you have to be open to that. But at the end of the day, I have to make it very clear, I don't walk around calling myself a subject matter expert. In fact, anytime anyone asks, what's your title? I sit there and when they do that in a derogatory manner, which I've gotten, a rather combative manner, I've gotten that a fair bit from people on Reddit and YouTube. Oh, you must be an expert. I always respond the same. Well, you know, according to my job, yes. According to government, yes. According to certification and certifying bodies, yes. But I call myself cybersecurity professional, information assurance professional. I mean, I'm a professional. That's what I am.
By the way, if you guys love M&Ms, get you some M&M minis, especially for somebody who's hangry like myself. So if you're hangry and feeling down and need some enjoyment in your life, don't forget to get them M&M minis. Anyway, so yes, so pretty much in 2022, if you want to be a subject matter expert, strive to be that, then more than trying to be a hacker or knowing when you're going to be called a hacker. And if you're doing the shit, you already know who you are. Nobody needs to tell you who you are.
Yeah.
But if you're striving for greatness, it's not that you can't do it. It's not impossible. You can do it. It just takes time.
It does.
And maybe you will, and maybe you won't. It's all about the individual. So with that being said, this has concluded our segment. I'm Roniel.
I'm DaRon.
And if you like this content, please like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And if there's any content or anything you guys want to discuss on our channel, please let us know down in the comment section or email us. And this concludes our time. Until the next time.
Have fun.
Later.
there's only one way to be a subject matter expert in this field, and that is to be a subject matter expert of the field. And it takes a very long time. And honestly, the way I managed to do it was diversity of experience. So I'd done the networking and administration. I had a computer science degree. I'd done development. I moved into, through the government, the defensive and offensive side, and then just moved around from there. I had a lot of opportunities because I was a federal contractor. And because I wasn't just your standard federal contractor who only sits on one contract doing one thing, I was all over the place. That's how I wound up gaining a lot of knowledge in a lot of different things, coupled with everything else. And I don't think there's another good way. I'm not saying you have to be a government contractor. I'm saying you have to do a whole bunch of everything. That's the only way you're going to do it.